everybody to the light and the love and beauty of South Sound. I just want to thank Jay Maven on bass for joining us, and Sergio Solidarius on piano. Just a great joy to have both of them playing, and we're just going to celebrate today together. So this is, I think, our third service online, and just want to let you know that we're doing this to stay in alignment with all the healthcare professionals' directives and governor's orders. We are all staying 6 feet apart. We took in your suggestions, and thank you for them. We're wiping down mics, we're wiping down my mic and all the equipment before and after service. In the future, we'll probably even have 2 mics so that no one shares the same one. So thank you for your concerns, and if you do have any questions or even joys you want to share with us, give us a call at our office, which is 253-301-0385, or you can email us at office@unityofsouthsound.org. So now I just invite you to relax wherever you may be and just center yourselves as we reconnect and we express the truth that we know. If you'll please join me in saying from your home our opening affirmation together. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotence. And our mission statement, inspired by the divine, as an inclusive spiritual community, we explore and express our highest potential. And our vision statement, present and centered in divine love, we co-create a peaceful and awakened world. And finally, our core values, we are love, joy, abundance, and spirit guided. Third time's the charm. So as I light this unity candle, I invite you to think of it as the divine light within you that is always burning, that never dies. So we just take this moment to join in prayer together. Wherever you may be, I invite you to simply open your heart, open your mind, open your being to the divine energy and consciousness of God. We give ourselves a big hug, first and foremost, with deep compassion for any challenge that we may be experiencing with this virus, whether it be financial or physical or mental, emotional. We just allow ourselves to be present during this hour with deep love and compassion. And we extend our prayers out to all the healthcare professionals. We see them uplifted and strengthened. We see the facilities in which they work fully staffed, fully supplied. We see all those in positions of power making decisions with divine guidance and wisdom. And we see our entire nation, our entire world uplifted in the divine strength and comfort that only God can bring. And so we join our hearts together today. We lift our spirits high as we celebrate this Palm Sunday, as we celebrate Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. We lift our spirits high, knowing that divine presence of God, that Christ consciousness, lives and breathes within each and every one of us. And so we give thanks for this chance to come together today. We give thanks for this life. We give thanks for this church community. And all of this we celebrate in our hearts. And we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. So at this time, I just invite you all to stand if you're at home and have fun and join with Michelle Millsap in singing our congregational song.
Breathe next to you. Say nothing about you. Look around the sanctuary. Feel the love that's coming. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. Meet the neighbor next to you. Say, I behold the blessing you. Lift your hands in sanctuary. Let the light come shining. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. Meet the neighbor next to you. Say, God is love and so are you. You are at home in the sanctuary. Receive the love that's here. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love.
So, Michelle, you guys couldn't see it right now because of birthday moves and stuff. It's all me and there's 2 people here. So we just want to extend this moment to say namaste to everyone who is joining us online. If you're comfortable, if you're living with somebody, you can give them a hug. If I was at home, I would give my son a hug. You can do so, or you can just say namaste. So behold the divinity you are. Namaste.
Love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. Here and now I give for myself. Love is leading me on. Joy is lifting me up. Joy is lifting me up. I am here for God the good. Now joy is lifting me up. Peace is flowing in me. Peace is flowing in me. Whatever may come, whatever may go, peace is flowing in me. Love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. Here and now I get over myself. Love is leading me on.
Thank you again, Michelle. It's a beautiful song, and I thought on the first tune when we said look around in the sanctuary, just look around planet Earth, because it's all divine sanctuary. God's presence is everywhere. It doesn't always feel that way sometimes, but at the heart, everything is pure light. So we want to do the inspirational reading today, and this is from the Daily Word, October 19th, 1962. It's entitled, No Fear. God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of power and love and discipline. We need not give way to fear or let it take over our mind. Fear disappears as we refuse to let our imagination run riot, as we bring our thoughts and feelings under control with the gentle discipline of love. Of what are we afraid? The power of love is greater than our fear. The power of God is greater than any real or imagined ill. And the power of love, the power of God, is in us. God has put His Spirit in us. He has given us a spirit of love that transforms the coldness of fear into the warmth of trust. Trust in God. Trust in His presence in us and His presence in all other persons. God has given us a spirit of discipline. We have within us the capability and the will to overcome. We have the power to keep our thoughts steady and stayed on God so that fear cannot deter us. The loving discipline over our own thoughts that we achieve through turning again and again to God in prayer is our calm answer to fear. God gave us not a spirit of fearfulness, but of power and love and discipline. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. Thank you again, Jay and Sarah, very much for joining us. Certainly, as always, but thank you, Jay. Take a breath out of that one. So today I want to talk about really lifting our spirits up. Lifting our spirits up. Today, of course, is Palm Sunday, and oftentimes we, in our current situation, we focus so much on the world around us, on the external things. And as we do that, and as things are very, very challenging, it can be so easy to fall into fear at this time. And we know with our third unity principle that whatever we're holding on to in our consciousness, whatever thoughts or emotions, we're going to draw things like that to us. So when we're living in a state of fear, we're going to attract what we fear. And that's a very deep concept and sometimes a challenging one to grapple with, but it really puts the responsibility back on us. And so today I really want to encourage you to lift yourselves up because God is greater than any darkness or any fear that may be coming in your life. So again, today in the Christian world, we celebrate Palm Sunday and Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. So churches all around the globe are celebrating this. And if we look closely at this story, it really has a lot to teach us about our situation today with the coronavirus. Isn't that interesting? So the story I'm going to read is from Matthew 21, verses 1 through 11. It's entitled Jesus' Triumphant Entry into Jerusalem. When they had come near Jerusalem and had reached the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two disciples, saying to them, "Go into the village ahead of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, just say this, 'The Lord needs them.' And he will send them immediately." This took place to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet, saying, "Tell the daughter of Zion, look, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey, and on a colt, the foal of a donkey." The disciples went and did as Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put their cloaks on them, and he sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, and others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and that followed were shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest!" When he entered Jerusalem, the whole city was in turmoil, asking, "Who is this?" The crowds are saying, "This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth in Galilee." Now I'll end with Mark's ending, which is the only gospel of the four gospels that says this, four synoptic gospels. And it says, "Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him," to Jesus, "Teacher, order your disciples to stop." He answered, "I tell you, if these were silent, the very stones would shout out." And then he follows this with, Jesus weeps over Jerusalem. As he came near and saw the city, he wept over it, saying, "If you, even you, had only recognized on this day the things that make for peace, but now they are hidden from your eyes." So this is a powerful story. It's a deep story. And there's a lot of symbolism and meaning that we can glean from it. And in Unity, as you know, the way we often interpret the Bible, we can interpret it literally, but what we choose to do is to interpret it non-literally or symbolically. So we call it metaphysically. So let's take a look at some of the elements of the story and what they might symbolize. So the donkey
it really represents peace, because at this period of time, if somebody was a leader or a king was riding in on a donkey, they obviously weren't preparing for war. They were riding in on a horse, then it would be a different story. So already you kind of see this energy that Jesus had that is pure peace. Now this is interesting because he's going into Jerusalem for the last week of his life, and he knows what's about to happen. He knows it's going to be an extremely difficult time. He's going to be betrayed, he's going to be mocked, he's going to be made fun of, he's going to be tortured, murdered, eventually denied by his disciples and killed. Wow. But instead of riding in, cowering in fear, he comes in on this donkey, really in a state of great peace and great courage. This already is a deep message for us in whatever challenge that we may be having. Now, in addition to this, we've got symbolism with the cloak. So everybody the disciples put their cloaks on the donkey. And it kind of represents that God is more powerful than anything that's external. They put the cloaks and they put the palm leaves on the road, and Jesus rides over those. And in a sense, it's saying the divine in us is more powerful than anything in the world around us. And they say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. In other words, in the face of fear, blessed is the presence of God that lives in us. You see, this is a powerful story with powerful reminders to all of us. Now, as Mark says, as he concludes with his gospel, the Pharisees come forward and they tell Jesus to tell the disciples to shut up. Stop being so joyful, you're stirring everything up in Jerusalem. And Jesus said, but even if you stop us, the very stones are going to shout out. In other words, God's loving and joyful presence is everywhere. It doesn't even matter what is going on in the world. They are singing out at all times. It's omnipresent. Regardless of the challenges in our life, joy is everywhere. Now finally, he weeps when he sees Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is translated as habitation of peace. Very interesting, isn't it? So we have a Jerusalem within us, a place of peace. And he says, he weeps over it, and he says, you guys still don't get what brings peace. You still don't get it. Now let's take a step back and kind of look at the context of kind of what was before the story of Palm Sunday and what's after it. And leading up to it, as you remember a few weeks ago, I mentioned Jesus' healing Lazarus. And this happened just before he went into Jerusalem. And the whole symbolism of this was, again, that even death is not too powerful for the power of God. God is more powerful than even death. This was Jesus' best friend. He wept over. Now, following entering Jerusalem, first thing he does is he goes to the temple. When he goes there, he clears out the temple of all this stuff, which again is like a symbolic statement of don't focus so much on the external. Make room for God. Cleanse the temple of your own thoughts and your own emotions so God can live there. Now you put all this together, Lazarus entering Jerusalem and the temple, and the main idea that's sort of emerging in what Jesus is teaching is that the external world, whether it's we're raising Lazarus, we're entering and we know we're going to be killed, or we're distracted by all stuff that's going on in the temple, he's saying the external world is not the greatest reality. The external world is not the greatest reality. And then he was going to further demonstrate that in the next week. So all of this to me, him riding in on a donkey, him having all this courage, it is a reminder to us to center ourselves in courage and in peace at this time, in the face of great adversity. It's exactly what Jesus was teaching here. Now, peace, if you kind of step back and think about it, has kind of gotten a bad name recently. You go back to the late 60s, and it was sort of like peace, man. It was sort of this energy, which was the beginning, it was a good start. But in that kind of presence, it's almost like there's some insubstantial energy to it. There's not a strength or a backbone. And I would invite you to consider that maybe it's being portrayed to us this way because peace is extremely powerful. My wife and I have been watching a Netflix series recently, and it's funny because when I log on to Netflix on my account, we get ready to watch the series, and there's a little image of this guy who's like in this super angry, violent mode. And then you log on with her name, and there's like a woman that's in a dress. And I step back and I think about this, and I'm like, we're really being programmed here, especially males, to be in this energy of like violence and warfare. And it's almost in a sense, if you read between the lines, saying, that's what's powerful. And that's what we're going to project today. We're going to project this sort of angry, violent energy. Now, if you just use your reason for a minute and you think about it and say, okay, if I lived for decades and decades with the energy of violence or fear in my body eventually would just fall over and collapse. I could die, I could have a heart attack or some sort of health problem because I'm living with all this fear. But conversely, if you live for decade after decade with a real energy of peace in your heart, my guess is you could live a really long time, probably much longer than we live today. Now you kind of go back and you look at history and you say, well, in the 1940s, the average amount of time that someone lived was around 60 years. And today we're up in closer to 80. And I have to think, this is not just because of the science of the day. There's something going on. I wager to say that we are starting to awaken spiritually to the peace that is within us. Now, I'm kind of a geek, so I look back at history sometimes. I even look back at things like when the Pilgrims came over. What was their average lifespan? Because they have birth and death records in those days. If you're really geeky, you can go to the library and look at them, which I've done. And so you look at this, and people would regularly live into their 90s, back in the late 1600s in these colonies. And I said, why is that? It might be because, think of the stress level those days. Wow. Think of the physical surroundings, the beauty of nature. Think of the organic foods that they were probably eating, the physical work they were doing. In a sense, all of this is saying that peace is incredibly powerful. Not only does it have an effect on our lifespan, but it has an effect on our connection with God. Now, if peace was so weak and insubstantial, which I'm kind of insinuating we've been taught, why is everybody searching for it? I mean, consciously or unconsciously, people all around the world are looking for peace. If I get a lot of money, I can finally relax and have peace. When I retire, well, then I can relax and be at peace. Or if I reach that level of meditation, then I'll have real peace in my life. Or maybe if all war and conflict ends on the world, well, then we'll have peace. Or maybe if all the social difficulties and all the social conflicts just went away, then we'd have real peace. Or maybe if all the environmental destruction were to end today, then we have peace. See, I'm guessing that one of those kind of hooked you a little. That every single one of us is searching for this. Now, if we look back at Jesus' message, it's really simple. I mean, what he's saying is, be it now. It is you. It's like walking around looking for your glasses on your face. It's inside of you, so be it now. In the midst of everything that you see happening. And he says, in fact, celebrate it. Because if you tell me to shut up, the very stones are going to sing it. You see? Celebrate it. Because it's your true nature. Now, what's interesting is he entered Jerusalem in a time of incredible conflict. It's ruled by the Roman Empire, who conquers with merciless violence, and a religious elite who professed basically to know the only way to God. And here's this radical teacher. So basically, you've got kind of a matter and spiritual lockdown. This is the way it is, totally controlled. And in the midst of all this, he rides into town on a donkey, representing peace, saying, we're all one with God, and preaching love and forgiveness. It was radical. It was genius. And so I think what he is saying is go to the deepest parts of yourself and be that love, and be that peace, and go to that place within you that is light as an example to the world, because it will wake you up and it will serve to wake up others. Now, the second part of this equation, it's easy to talk about peace. Man, does it take courage. It takes real courage to be a peaceful presence today. Now, why is that? Because so many people are swept up today in what is happening. It doesn't matter if it's corona or something else. It takes real courage to step away from the group thing. Now, I spent at least a decade of my life sharing things that were totally against the grain, that people didn't want to hear. I was talking about technologies that have been suppressed and our ancient origins and what's really been going on for the last 10,000 years, and people were like, this guy's crazy. So I stepped back and I said, well, okay, let's try a different approach. I'll become a unity minister, and I kind of went through hell to get there. And I'll teach spiritual principles, because if we align ourselves with spirit, we're going to raise our frequency, we're going to raise our vibration, and we're going to draw to us knowledge that awakens us, and we're going to draw to that energy anyway. And I said, I want to put myself in a visible position, so if this knowledge ever does come out, I can be in a space where I can share it with people. But that takes real courage. It was the same in Jesus' time. To go in and teach love and forgiveness, people didn't want to hear that. They wanted to hear eye for an eye, and you turn the cheek, smack you on the other one. That was the group thing at the time. Now, with our current situation with coronavirus, it really takes courage to not fall into fear. The media is going, all this fear. And hear me when I'm saying, please hear me. I definitely advise to take precautions, follow the signs, stay 6 feet apart, work from home, follow the governor's orders. And I would say, in addition to that, in addition to those practical, concrete steps, pump up your spirit, lift up your spirit, like Jesus is saying. And you can do that, positive energy, they have proven strengthens the immune system. One of our congregants sent me a wonderful article, a scientific article, saying, stay positive. Because that strengthens you, keeps you from getting sick. Get good stress. Get good stress, yeah. Yeah, avoid stress. Get good sleep. That's what my notes are saying. Get good sleep, because it strengthens your immune system. So the purpose of all of this is that you don't have to live in fear. In fact, fear weakens us to the point where it makes us more susceptible. Again, our third unity principle, we attract what we feel. Now, I sort of studied these forces for a while. I'm kind of a weirdo in this way. It's okay, I can judge myself that way. And sometimes, I'll meditate on both forces. Love is that expanding force, and fear is that contracting force. And I just want to experiment and see what they're like. So if I'm centering in fear intentionally, I just do little experiments on myself. First thing I notice is my mind is not as expanded. And what we begin to think is that when we live in fear, we say, okay, the data that I've got, it's the only data that there is. And when we're centered in that fearful energy, it's almost like we're in our house and we turn the lights down. And we may stay and hang out in a single room and draw the curtains. And if we stay there long enough, it's like we sort of forget there's other rooms in the house. If we stay there long enough, we might forget, what does it look like to see the sun? What does it look like to play on the grass and be outside? The mind's not as expanded. And that energy of fear flows right into our other energies, our emotions. We start to kind of feel tense for no reason at all. We don't know why, but we just feel afraid. And then that begins to flow into our actions. We say, I can't go out of my room because I might fall. I could hit a doorknob, or maybe I'll step out on the sidewalk and I'll fall down and injure myself for life. And after a while, if we live in that state long enough, it kind of becomes normative. It becomes normal. And it's interesting because, if enough people believe in this, it starts to be weird to turn the lights back on and to step out of the room. And it sort of seems almost dangerous. And this is why I think it is so important for us to be cautious of groupthink. Because in a sense, I think we have been told so many lies over time. Not to say that it's lies with the coronavirus, but I think our origin, who we are, our history. And again, if we hear something long enough with that energy of fear, we start to believe it. And so what I really encourage you today to do is, like Jesus, to make the love within you and the peace within you louder than the fear. One of the things I always loved about our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, is he would encourage people to do what I'm saying, step out of the group thing, and ask ourselves, what do you think? And sometimes he would ask his students that, and they would say, well, they would quote him back to him, and he'd say, yeah, I know what I think. What do you think? And in a sense, he was saying, don't even follow what I'm saying. Connect with that presence of God within you. Now that takes courage. It takes courage to think for ourselves. Because like I've said before, the book Conversations with God with Neil Donald Walsh says that we have very little self-produced data. Most of our thinking, much of our thinking at least, is from the surrounding culture. So it takes courage to say, no, this is what I'm going to think. This is what I'm going to do. Now in this process, this is one of discernment. Now, the ancient Hindus describe three forces that are always active in the universe. I won't say the Sanskrit name, but they're basically one force is dissolving force. So this is like the force that causes the cells on your skin to slough off and fly through the air, or the leaves on the ground to decompose. It's a dissolving force that we see everywhere. Then there's a preserving force, and this might be like the good bacteria in your body, or a vitamin that keeps you going. Gas in the gas tank. I don't know if that's a preserving force. And then finally, a positive kind of creative force. And this is that kind of infinite potential within us. Now, it's interesting that we have a choice. These are circulating all the time. You drive to church and you might hit a bug on your windshield. You're going to this holy place. So we have a choice all the time, kind of what do we align ourselves with? Now, God can speak to us through all of it, even through our fears. Like I mentioned on Facebook Live the other day, you could be next to the Grand Canyon, and you have this fear, you're standing next to it, and it's really God saying, look out, you're standing pretty close there. You might want to step back a little bit from the edge so you don't trip and fall. So this is a sense that it's coming from our higher self. We have to begin to discern, when is that energy coming from our higher self, from God? When is it coming from our ego, or our lower nature? Now, the way I think we start to do this is we start to get really still. We start to go behind the thought. Because behind every thought and every emotion, there's an energy. And if we get still enough, and if we do our spiritual practices, we can start to hear that. Somebody asked Deepak Chopra one time, how do you stay so peaceful? And I love his comment. He said, I don't believe my own thoughts. I love that. And in a sense, what he's saying is he's discerned how to hear that feeling that I'm talking about that's behind the thought. And that's really all we need. Because as we grow spiritually, what begins to happen is we sort of get behind our mind. We start to hear an energy that's from our superconscious nature, our higher self. Now, all we've got to do is start trying that out and seeing, is that going to lead to good results? And when we do it and we experience good things, we say, okay, I can tune in now to what that energy is. When I went to India, for instance, everybody around me was just telling me all these fearful thoughts, and they were saying, okay, 9/11 just happened, don't travel. This was about 8 or 9 months after that. They said, India is in a conflict with Pakistan, don't go there. And they said, my goodness, you don't even know where you're going in India. But I had all that fearful energy all around me and sort of inside of me too. I wasn't immune from it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to quiet those thoughts and I'm going to get behind them. And there was this feeling that said, go for it. This is what you should do. And it was the greatest journey in my entire life. Met my spiritual teacher, reacquainted myself with just pure love there. So again, as we practice our spiritual practices, whether it's meditation or prayer or yoga or chanting or using your mantra, like my wife is gardening. I mean, you can be out gardening in their lawn. As you practice your spiritual practices, you start to get more and more quiet. You can hear what is coming from my higher self, what's coming from the lower nature. Now again, regardless, Jesus says, there is something beyond this. God is so powerful that it can raise Lazarus. It can enter Jerusalem in peace. It can raise itself up, even through death and the Mount of Transfiguration, and fill us with light. Now at this point, I think we kind of come to an understanding that, we are that. We are that light. And we could just begin to take dictation, if you will, from God. We know we're protected. But to get from here to there, it really takes courage. And so I invite you to lift yourself up this week, lift yourself up this month, and say, blessed is that place within you that comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. And trust in the power of peace. That story with Elijah where God says, go sit on the mountain and listen. I'm going to talk to you. he goes there and he sits down, and first this, I don't know if I'm doing the order right, but first comes this huge earthquake. You know, and he says, "Is that God?" And nope, that's not God. And then next comes this fire, this raging fire everywhere, and he says, maybe that was God. And he says, no, that wasn't it. And then finally this huge hurricane of wind comes, and he says, no, that wasn't God either. And finally, after it's all done, this peace descends, and he finally hears God. And it's this still small voice. And what's awesome about that is it's saying, look at what is most powerful. You know, this huge earthquake, this huge fire, this incredible wind, and still it really wasn't as powerful as the presence of God. God's presence comes through this peace that lives within us and that is everlasting. Now, this is exactly what Jesus did as he was on trial, as he was struggling, as he was suffering. He centered in that peace. And really, it is the peace that passes all understanding. It's all powerful. So no matter what is occurring in your life, I invite you right now, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, to raise your spirit up and to walk into your Jerusalem, your habitation of peace, with courage and with light. God bless you all. We'll see you next week at Easter, and so it is. Amen. So we just take this moment to become centered and still for a time of meditation together. And in this space, we take a deep breath in. And we breathe that out. Let's take another deep breath in. Breathe out. In this beautiful sanctuary, in this beautiful space that we have created together, we open our hearts and we open our minds to the peace which passes all understanding. That place within each and every one of us that is pure light, that is pure strength and love. We open in this moment to a power and a presence that knows no limitation and no boundary. And we allow ourselves to go deeper into its presence than we have gone before. In this space, we allow ourselves to gently hold our consciousness with love and compassion. Any concerns or struggles we may have, we just let them be here. Just as they are. Maybe we have fears, maybe we have worries. We bring it all to the table right now. Put it in the pot. Chop it up and put it in the salad. And we just embrace it all with great compassion, with great love. We know that where two or more are gathered, there the presence of God is. Last week we had over 1,000 people join us. And so we feel that consciousness and we feel that love strengthening us in this moment. We wrap all of our worries in the divine love of God. And we trust and we know that we are supported We are backed and we are sustained by an awesome, awesome power. And so with each breath we take, we energize ourselves with that power. We lift our spirits up in a presence of great joy and peace. And we send our light out to all living things everywhere. As we hold this loving presence, this peaceful presence, I invite you to let your heart sing, to send your light out to the entire planet, and to lift up ourselves and others as we spend a few moments together in the silence of our being. So as we bring our attention back to our breath and to this space, we keep our hearts and our minds open. We go forward into our week with great peace and with great joy. And we allow ourselves to remain open and receptive and humble, to hear the guidance of the divine. What is ours to do this week? How are we being called to reach out to other people? Maybe it's through a smile, through a phone call, through a letter. How are we called to be this uplifting presence of peace in the world? And so we give thanks for this time together. We give thanks for this spiritual community, for everyone who is joining us online. We give thanks for our very lives, for the breath that flows through us and the hands that we get to work with, these eyes, these brains, these divine physical bodies and beings that we live in. Thank you, God. So we go forward in great gratitude and joy to bless ourselves and others. And for this, we say thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us online. Boy, we had a lot of people join us last time. So for all those of you returning, thank you, namaste. And for all those who this may be your first time joining us, we're just so blessed that you have decided to share your love with us, because we feel it here. Even though we're coming through technology, we also visualize, many more people tuning in and just being blessed by this message and this ministry. And so I want to send a blessing out to all of our newcomers and our live streamers. So if you'll join with me in doing our unity blessing. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity you are. All right. right, at this time I'll invite myself and Jay and Cerny to prepare for our next song. And I just want to share with you that we have 3 easy ways to support us, to support this ministry. If you feel touched and moved by this ministry, we're just so grateful for your support. So the first is you can go to our website, which is www.unityofsouthsound.org. On the homepage in the upper right corner is a donate button in orange. You can click on that and make a donation one time or ongoing. It's simple, it's safe, secure, easy to do. 2, you can call our office. Again, the number is 253-301-0385. Leave us a message, we'll call you back and you can make a donation that way. Or you can simply do the old-fashioned way, which is mail us at Unity of South Sound, which is 710 South Anderson Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405. And so whether you make your tithes online or over the phone or you mail them in, I invite you to either hold them in your hand or hold them in your heart at this moment. And we're going to say our offering affirmation, which is up on the screen. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am in perfect balance and flow with the universal ties of giving and receiving. Thank you, God. So we got a few announcements for you. I can get the page up here. Mini hats today. So our Unity Pledge Drive, thank you so much to everyone who donated to our Unity Pledge Drive. Our pledge total for the year was $73,030. Now our goal was quite a bit higher than that. It was $190,500. And again, not all of our people do turn in a pledge form, but we still receive contributions. But I would really encourage you, if you get benefit from this ministry, to consider making a donation, because since we aren't meeting here at Inspire, we do need some greater financial support this year. So again, if you would like to contribute, you can go to our website, go to the donate button, you can call our office, or you can email me, or you can email the office at unityofsouthsound.org, and you could also mail your contribution in at 710 South Anderson Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405. So again, thank you all so much for your donations and your contributions. We are so blessed by you. This week I'm going to start a coffee with yours truly, Reverend Jeffrey, 11 a.m. on Wednesdays. We're going to do this on Zoom. I sent out a Zoom link to as many people as I could that I had emails for. I think it was like 143 people. And also, if you didn't get that email, you can go to the website. There's a link there. And there's also a link on the e-glass. So you got multiple ways. If none of those three ways work, give me a call or email me at revjeffrey.southsound@gmail.com, and I'll send you the link. It's just a chance for us to connect and be present with each other right now and talk about what we're going through. So also be patient. It'll be my first time doing a Zoom meeting, so there may be a lot of us, and we'll just do our best to connect. In addition to that, I've got a 30 Days to Fearless Living Facebook Live program that I do each day. And thank you, Michelle, for helping out on my days off, or at least some of my days off. And that's a small inspirational reading that has been compiled of mostly Unity Ministries inspirational messages. And it's a different topic every day, but it centers around how we can live our life without fear. So some of the authors are Myrtle Fillmore, Eric Butterworth, Jim Rosemurgy, and some of my colleagues who are living today and practicing in the field. So please join us. That'll be at noon each day, minus Sunday, because we're here on Sunday. So Monday through Saturday at noon, good chance to just connect. It'll be usually about 10 minutes long. So we'll do the reading, I'll expand on it a little, and then I'll close with prayer. Our youth recycling fundraiser, we have moved that to June 7th. So we're going to be, again, collecting your things from your home that you no longer need, your soft goods like clothing, shoes, and bedding, some household goods like toys and books. All of this goes to supporting our youth in attending their camps, which are just so wonderful that you support us in that way. So if you want to get rid of some excess stuff in your house, it goes to a good cause. Finally, please join us online next week for our Easter service. We'll just be so blessed for you to join us. And again, we'll have that here. We'll share our love with you, and we'll tune in together and celebrate together. So even though our youth are not with us physically today, we know they're with us in spirit, and so we want to give them and our teachers and Jennifer our blessing. So if you'll join with me in saying our unity blessing together for our youth. We love you,
we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity you are.
Thank you all so much. So if you'll join with me wherever you are, as Michelle is singing the song, and put your hands high as we send out peace and blessing to the world. Together, our prayer protection, the light of God surrounds me. I am the light of God. The love of God entwines me. I am the love of God. The power of God protects me. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over me. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. God bless you.